In the misty Celtic hills, villagers whispered of infants taken by the fae. Their warm children vanished, replaced with pale creatures that felt wrong. The villagers called them changelings. Fae-born children exchanged for human ones. Mothers wept, for though the body remained, the soul was stolen away. Legends claimed the fae craved the purity and warmth of mortal children. The stolen ones were carried into fairy realms, lost beyond mortal reach. Families left behind faced sorrow, suspicion, and dread of the changeling child. Some said the changeling grew sickly, feeding not on milk, but on grief. Others claimed it revealed its true form when left alone in the dark. But all agreed the fae had stolen what was most precious, leaving only to villagers whispered that a changeling could be exposed by tricking it into laughter. If it laughed too long or too old, it revealed the spirit of the fae within. Others said fire frightened them, for fae could not bear the purity of flame. Families sometimes left the child alone on the hearth. Overnight, hoping the fae would return, they prayed that by dawn, the human child would be returned, the changeling gone. But the fae were cruel, and more often than not, the human child was lost forever. Priests and druids offered charms and rituals, desperate to protect the innocent. They placed iron scissors by the cradle, for iron was said to wound the fae. Salt, too, was scattered across doorways to block the fae from returning. Yet even with charms and prayers, the fear of the changeling remained unbroken. Legends claimed the fae stole children to strengthen their own kind. A human child's soul was said to carry a light that fae desperately craved. The changeling, in turn, was left behind as a mockery of what was lost. Some said changelings were fae children, unwanted, and abandoned in human homes. Others believed they were crafted illusions, shells without true hearts. The fae world was a mirror of human life, filled with beauty but also cruelty. It was said that human laughter warmed the fae realm, and human tears sweetened its air. But for mortals, the exchange brought only grief and suspicion. Many tales ended with tragedy, as families rejected the changeling out of fear. And so, the myths painted a world where love was stolen, and sorrow lingered forever. One tale told of a farmer's wife whose baby grew sharp-toothed overnight. Neighbors whispered it was not her child, but a changeling with a hungry mouth. Another story told of a boy who aged in days, his hair turning white. Some changelings spoke with voices far too old for their bodies. They mocked their mothers, cackling with fae laughter that chilled the air. One woman swore her baby danced upon the hearth when left alone. Others claimed the changelings could play instruments though still babes in arms. These tales spread quickly, binding fear to every cradle in the land. Every strange sickness or deformity became proof of a changeling child, and in every fearful whisper, the fae's power grew stronger. People believed iron was poison to the fae, so they placed nails near cradles. Mothers left tongs by the fireplace, hoping the cold iron would ward off the changeling. Salt was sprinkled on thresholds, another barrier against Fae intrusion. Yet when protection failed, harsher methods rose. Some placed the suspected changeling upon the fire to force the Fae to return the true child. Others threatened the child with boiling water, hoping the Fae would surrender. Sometimes they beat the changeling, believing pain would reveal its true nature. Stories told that changelings laughed under torture, mocking their captors. When laughter came, the villagers believed the Fae would soon return the stolen child. But too often, the cruel rites ended only in sorrow and silence. In County Clare, a tale spoke of a baby who wailed for 7 nights without rest. The villagers declared it a changeling, for no human lungs could scream so long. Another story from Wales told of twins, one thriving, the other fading into bone. The fading child was said to be a Fae trick, a changeling doomed to die. One Irish legend told of a boy who played the fiddle like a grown man. His music was too perfect, too haunting, and they claimed him a Fae imposter. In Scotland, a mother swore her infant spoke words of prophecy before it could walk. She told the priest, but he warned her the child was Fae-born and cursed. These tales spread across the Celtic lands, binding fear into every lullaby. And through them, the changeling myth grew into both warning. The church saw changeling stories as proof of the devil's work. Priests warned mothers that only baptism could shield their children. Baptized children, they claimed, were safe from Fae abduction. But if a changeling had already replaced the child, baptism revealed the truth. Some claimed that changeling would scream with an adult's voice when touched by holy water. In villages, crosses were carved above doors to ward off the Fae. Some mothers tied rosaries to their cradles, hoping prayer would protect. Yet despite the blessings, fear lingered in every home. Faith was a shield, but whispers of the Fae were stronger than sermons. Thus, the changeling became both a tale of demons and a story of failure. Fear of changelings tore families apart, setting neighbor against neighbor. A sickly child was no longer just unfortunate, it was suspected Fae-born. Mothers who loved their strange children risked being branded as witches. Men who rejected their children sometimes drove them into the woods. There were whispers of babies left upon crossroads as offerings. Others spoke of infants drowned, their cries silenced in rushing rivers. The myths gave men excuses for cruelty and women burdens of guilt. Every deformity, every disability was blamed on the Fae. Thus, innocent children bore the punishment of superstition, and through their suffering, the legend of the chain. Behind the myths lay the grief of parents facing illness and loss. When children wasted away, parents sought answers in the unseen world. Blaming the Fae gave shape to fears they could not name. It was easier to say a child had been stolen than to accept death. A changeling became a mask for sickness, explaining what they could not heal. Some mothers clung to the idea that their real child still lived among the Fae. That belief gave hope, even as their arms remained empty. But hope was tangled with guilt. Had they failed to guard the cradle? The changeling myth gave both comfort and torment in equal measure. Thus, psychology, and folklore entwined, shaping grief. Though centuries have passed, whispers of changelings still linger in Celtic lands. Stories survive in lullabies, warning children to stay close to home. Folklorists record these tales as echoes of ancient fears. Some see them as metaphors for illness and grief, cloaked in myth. Others see them as symbols of cultural memory, binding people to their past. In modern fantasy, changelings reappear as characters of mystery and danger. But for many, the legend is still tied to sorrow, a reminder of fragile lives. The changeling warns of loss, yet also speaks of hope beyond the veil. It is a story that blends love and fear, despair and wonder. And so, the tale of the changeling endures half myth, half memory, fully human.